Your phone buzzes at 7 in the morning. It's a report. 42 clinics reporting in, patient numbers, revenue numbers, staffing numbers, all of it landing quietly in one simple dashboard before you've even had breakfast. None of these clinics know each other exist. Most of the doctors working inside them have never met you. They just see a regional manager, a logo on a folder, a name on a paycheck that isn't yours. Nothing about your morning looks impressive. You're sitting at a plain desk, wearing a plain shirt, drinking coffee out of a chipped mug that's older than most of your employees. But here's what almost nobody walking into any single one of these clinics ever considers. This entire network is worth roughly $500 million today, and it started with one small underperforming clinic nobody else wanted to buy. That's not luck. It never was. This isn't a story about medicine. It isn't about being a doctor either. You aren't one. It's about a strategy almost nobody explains clearly until they've actually lived through building it themselves. Somewhere in another city right now, a small independent clinic is quietly struggling. The owner is tired. The equipment is aging. The staff keeps threatening to leave for somewhere bigger. That clinic has no idea what it could become under the right structure. Most owners in that position never find out. Stay with me, because by the end of this, you'll understand exactly why one tired clinic and $500 million aren't strange opposites at all. They're the same idea, repeated quietly, over and over, long before anyone else understood what was actually happening. There's a version of this story spreading across small towns and quiet suburbs all across the country right now. A family practice here, a dental office there, a physical therapy clinic barely holding on down the street from a busy pharmacy. Nobody driving past any single one of them has any idea what quietly connects them behind the scenes. That connection didn't happen by accident. It happened one careful decision at a time, one tired owner at a time, one unglamorous acquisition at a time, long before the total number ever became something worth talking about publicly. Most people looking for opportunity search for something exciting, something new, something that trends online for a few weeks before fading away completely. The quietest fortunes rarely come from anything trending at all. They come from unglamorous industries everyone else has already stopped paying attention to. Nobody grows up dreaming about clinic billing systems. Nobody imagines themselves getting excited about supply chain contracts for medical gauze and exam gloves. That's precisely why almost nobody bothers competing for this kind of opportunity in the first place. The lack of glamour is the entire moat protecting this business from crowded competition. Level 1. The gap between what people assume this business is and what it actually is. Most people picture healthcare as something only doctors profit from directly. That assumption isn't entirely wrong. It's simply incomplete. Every single clinic needs more than medical skill to survive. It needs scheduling systems, billing systems, supply contracts, insurance negotiations. Most small clinic owners are excellent at medicine and exhausted by everything else. That exhaustion is where this entire business quietly begins. Not by competing with doctors, by supporting them instead, by taking the parts of running a clinic that drain a doctor's energy and doing those parts at scale across dozens of locations at once. The first clinic you bought wasn't thriving. It was barely surviving. The owner was ready to close the doors entirely. You didn't buy a dream. You bought a headache nobody else wanted to deal with. That clinic had outdated equipment, a billing system nobody fully understood anymore, staff who hadn't received a raise in 3 years and were quietly interviewing elsewhere. On paper, it looked like a mistake waiting to happen. Underneath the mess, something else was actually true. The patients kept coming back. The location was solid. The core problem wasn't medicine at all. It was everything surrounding the medicine that nobody had time to fix properly. Fixing that surrounding structure turned out to be far more valuable than anyone else in the industry seemed to realize. Most buyers wanted clinics that already looked polished. You wanted the ones nobody else wanted to touch. That difference in appetite is where this entire strategy actually began. Two buyers looking at the exact same struggling clinic can walk away with completely different conclusions. One sees only the mess and walks away immediately. The other sees a stable patient base hiding underneath fixable operational problems. That difference in perspective rarely shows up as luck. It shows up as patience applied correctly for the first time. Level 2. Why this business scales in a way almost nobody expects walking in. A single clinic barely generates enough profit to justify the stress involved. Everyone in the industry already knows that part, but a single clinic isn't really the business. The infrastructure underneath it is. Add one more clinic to the same billing system. The marginal cost barely moves. Add 10 more clinics to the same supply chain contracts. Prices per unit start dropping because volume finally has leverage. Add 42 clinics across an entire region, and something strange starts happening to the math. A single clinic might generate a few $100,000 in annual profit if it's running well. Multiply modest profit across 42 locations, and the number stops looking small almost immediately. Most people never sit down and actually calculate this for themselves. That's exactly why this strategy stayed quietly available for so long before more people caught on. The real profit doesn't come from any single clinic performing brilliantly. It comes from dozens of ordinary clinics performing steadily. Consistency multiplied by scale beats brilliance concentrated in one location almost every single time. Insurance companies negotiate very differently with a single small clinic compared to a network representing 42 locations at once. A single clinic has almost no leverage in that conversation. A network representing thousands of patients suddenly has a seat at the table that individual owners never had access to on their own. Equipment vendors offer entirely different pricing once volume crosses a certain threshold. A single ultrasound machine might cost full price for one clinic. The same machine purchased across a dozen locations at once often comes with a discount that changes the entire math of expansion going forward. Staffing becomes easier too, in ways most people never consider. A single clinic struggling to cover a sick day has almost no backup options. A network can quietly shift staff between nearby locations without ever leaving a single office shorthanded for long. That flexibility alone often determines whether a struggling clinic survives its first difficult year or quietly closes for good. Level 3. The unglamorous groundwork that quietly built this entire portfolio. Reading through years of messy financial records from tired independent practices, sitting through uncomfortable conversations with exhausted owners who don't trust anyone offering to buy their life's work, standardizing scheduling software across dozens of locations that have never used the same system twice, negotiating supply contracts line by line with vendors who assume small clinics have no real leverage at all. None of this looks impressive from the outside. None of it belongs in a magazine feature anywhere. But every single one of these unglamorous tasks, done patiently for years, is precisely what turned 42 separate struggling clinics into one coordinated network capable of negotiating like something far larger than any single piece of it. The unglamorous parts were never a distraction from building this business. They were the entire business quietly disguised as boring paperwork the whole time. Reading a clinic's financial history properly takes hours. Nobody enjoys spending. Old spreadsheets, missing invoices, handwritten notes from an office manager who left 2 years earlier and never trained a replacement properly. Most buyers give up somewhere in that mess. The ones who push through often find something worth saving underneath it. Convincing a tired owner to sell isn't a single conversation either. It's often a slow relationship built over months. Listening to their concerns about staff losing jobs. Reassuring them the clinic name will stay the same. Understanding that most owners aren't just selling a business. They're closing a chapter of their entire working life. Standardizing systems across dozens of locations sounds simple until you actually attempt it. Every clinic has its own habits, its own shortcuts, its own quiet resistance to change from staff who've done things the same way for a decade. Patience during that transition matters just as much as patience during the original purchase. Some clinics needed entirely new scheduling software installed before anything else could improve. Some needed a complete overhaul of how supplies were ordered and tracked. Some simply needed someone to finally answer the phone consistently during business hours instead of letting calls go to voicemail for hours at a time. None of these fixes required medical expertise at all. They required organizational patience applied consistently across dozens of locations that had never received that kind of attention before. Doctors are trained to diagnose patients. Almost nobody trains them to diagnose the operational sickness, quietly slowing their own business down year after year. Level 4, where all that quiet clinic income actually ends up going. It doesn't sit untouched in one single account collecting dust somewhere. Some of it gets reinvested directly into acquiring the next struggling clinic before a competitor ever notices it's available. Some of it gets redirected into shared infrastructure, better scheduling software, centralized billing teams, bulk purchasing agreements that individual clinic owners could never negotiate alone. The network grows clinic by clinic instead of chasing one dramatic acquisition all at once. This is precisely the detail that confuses people who only ever hear the final number without understanding the boring middle years. They assume something worth $500 million must have started with massive outside investment. In reality, it started with one tired clinic and patient reinvestment repeated for over a decade straight. That single detail changes the entire way people should think about quiet consolidation happening in ordinary industries all around them right now. Dentistry works the same way in different regions. Veterinary clinics follow an almost identical pattern in other markets entirely. Physical therapy practices, urgent care centers, even small optometry offices often share the exact same underlying structure. Tired owners, solid patient bases, operational problems nobody has time to fix properly, while also seeing patients all day. The pattern repeats itself constantly once you actually know what to look for. Most people never notice it because they're looking for something flashy instead. The unglamorous businesses hiding in plain sight rarely announce themselves as opportunities. They simply sit there quietly struggling, waiting for someone patient enough to actually pay attention. Level 5, the social friction almost nobody warns you about before something like this. Family members occasionally assume you must be a doctor since you're clearly involved in healthcare somehow. Friends ask confused questions about which clinic you actually work at personally. There's a real quiet pressure to explain a business that doesn't fit neatly into any category people already understand. You're not a doctor, you're not simply an investor either. You occupy a strange middle space that most people have never had to think about before meeting you. The people who succeed at this eventually stop needing anyone else to fully understand the structure. Their quarterly reports do the explaining instead, long after the confused questions have stopped mattering to them personally. That pressure to justify an unfamiliar business rarely disappears completely. It just gets easier to shrug off the longer the network keeps quietly expanding regardless of anyone else's confusion about what exactly it is. There's also a quieter discomfort that almost nobody talks about publicly. Some clinic staff resent the ownership change at first, even when nothing about their daily work actually changes. Some patients ask suspicious questions about why their familiar, small clinic suddenly has a corporate name attached somewhere in the paperwork. Handling that discomfort honestly matters more than most people expect going in. Explaining clearly that the clinic itself isn't changing tends to ease most of that early tension. Only the support structure behind it is different. Trust gets rebuilt slowly, the same patient way everything else in this business gets built. Level 6. The exact moment this stopped feeling like constant firefighting and started feeling like genuine infrastructure. In the early years, every single acquisition felt uncertain. Every clinic came with its own set of hidden problems discovered only after the papers were already signed. Somewhere past a certain number of locations, that feeling shifted entirely. Struggling clinic owners started reaching out first. Word spread quietly through medical circles that this network actually stabilized clinics instead of stripping them down for parts. The business stopped depending on convincing any single reluctant owner to sell. It started running the way genuine infrastructure runs, quietly, predictably, whether the broader public understood any of it or not. The habit of reviewing messy financial records late at night eventually stopped feeling like extra effort entirely. It became identity instead. No more emotionally loaded than reviewing your own household budget before bed. Somewhere around clinic number 20, something else quietly shifted too. Local hospital administrators started recognizing the network's name. Insurance representatives stopped needing lengthy introductions before every negotiation. Medical equipment vendors started reaching out proactively instead of waiting to be contacted first. None of that recognition happened through advertising. It happened because 42 ordinary clinics kept quietly performing the same steady way year after year, without any dramatic incidents drawing unwanted attention. Reliability repeated long enough eventually becomes its own kind of reputation. Money genuinely can't buy that any faster. Level 7. What $500 million in quiet clinic ownership actually buys someone after enough years of patience. It rarely buys a sudden dramatic transformation overnight. Far more often it buys something quieter and considerably more valuable. Genuine independence from any single clinic's bad month. The freedom to absorb one underperforming location without panic, because 41 others keep the network stable regardless. The ability to survive a difficult regulatory season in one region without any real threat to the underlying structure holding everything together. That flexibility, once someone finally has it, tends to matter far more than any single headline acquisition ever could. None of this happened overnight. It happened because one tired clinic kept turning into 2. 2 kept quietly turning into 10. 10 eventually turned into 42 locations nobody outside the industry ever noticed connecting. None of this means every clinic acquisition turned out successfully. Some locations needed to be closed entirely. Some staff transitions were genuinely difficult and painful for everyone involved. People who build wealth this way usually aren't reckless either. They move carefully on acquisitions with real, long-term potential, while letting locations without genuine promise pass by without forcing anything. The clinics themselves were truly never the entire point. They were simply the most visible symbol standing in for something far larger. Patients applied to an unglamorous industry nobody else thought to look at closely, until it was already too late for them to catch up meaningfully. $500 million didn't arrive as a single dramatic milestone celebrated with fanfare. It arrived quietly buried inside a routine quarterly report, noticed almost by accident while reviewing numbers that had simply become part of an ordinary Tuesday. That's usually how numbers like this actually arrive, quietly, without an audience. Long after the excitement of any individual acquisition has already faded into routine. The version of yourself who sat through uncomfortable conversations with exhausted clinic owners for over a decade turns out to be the exact same version who eventually built something worth more than most people ever imagined an unglamorous industry could hide. None of it required brilliance. It required showing up patiently for longer than felt reasonable. Almost every single point along the way demanded it. If you're sitting there right now, wondering whether your own small, overlooked industry could hide a similar opportunity, the honest answer is that it very well might. The only real way to find out is to start paying attention to the tired, unglamorous businesses everyone else walks straight past without a second thought. This channel is POV Zenn. If this story changed how you look at ordinary healthcare clinics, the next time you walk past one, that's exactly why it got told in the first place. Subscribe if you want the next hidden wealth story broken down exactly like this one. Because somewhere near you right now, a small tired clinic might already be quietly waiting for exactly this kind of patient attention. Nobody needs to notice it yet for it to eventually matter. That's usually the entire point.